that day I live in a dream. I live in a dream.
Welcome to Only Trying to Help, the podcast where we try to help you help other people. My name is Kate Watson, and I'm here with my friend Jen, and I think we have a good topic today, but I'm going to let Jen introduce herself. Say hello.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, my name is Jennifer Ollis Blomqvist, and I am a Canadian living in Sweden and have been for the past 21 years, I suppose. So Kate and I, we've met each other through the MINT, Motivational Networking of Trainers. I'm also a cognitive behavioral coach, an author, and a course creator. So I've been busy.
I was just going to say that exact word. I was about to say, you have been a very busy person. We've been in contact, more frequently the last few months than we have been over the years that I've known you. And over the last few months, it's been obvious to me that you're just like churning out so much work and you have all this energy around what you're doing. And I asked you if you would come join the podcast because I suspect that you have some expertise to share with the audience that I do not have. Your course, your book, the things that you really focus on, you have a lot to offer the world about working with teens or parenting teens or communicating with teens. And my only experience there is having been one myself at one point. But I have a feeling that a lot of the parents listening right now are like turning up the volume and leaning in because they're thinking, okay, this is one I can use. So, I guess my first question is like, what makes you so excited or interested in the work that you do with teenagers?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what's kind of funny, actually, because when I studied psychology at university, I was thinking like, I'm really, I love working with criminal behavior and addictions and, mental health and all sorts of exciting things. And there was one thing that I knew, and it was that I was never going to work with teens. And then it seems kind of like it's all come full circle. And here I am thinking that teens are probably one of the most important groups to work with. They're not only our future, but also an exciting group to work with because they can be formed and they also have so much expertise to bring to conversations with adults. So when I see like work with teens or even how I, am with my own teens, it's like we're a team together. And that's what inspires me, what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I like the way that you kind of took this journey from, interest in criminal behavior and really like responding to the problems that already exist in the world and thought to yourself, if I started working with young people, maybe we could actually prevent some of these problems from existing in the world. And so I'm sure, I have no doubt in my mind that has made a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely. And in my work experience, I've worked in a Swedish prison for many years, about 14, 15 years. And I've seen so many people make changes and left their lives of criminal behavior and left domestic violence relationships and everything. And it's wonderful to see that kind of change. And at the same time, I was thinking, it's not too late for them to change, but it's very late. We need to be there more preventative. We need to be there earlier. We need to help kids and teens learn how to deal with conflicts or strong emotions and bullying, all those sorts of things. And so that's kind of where this drive or passion that I've had for the book and the course is I want to get out there and start to prevent before it goes too far and things escalate too much.
Yeah. So thinking about your course and your book, because I'll bet there are people already listening thinking, I could use some of that stuff. What would you say about, maybe we start with the book. What would you say about the book that you think maybe helpful to just regular people. They're not, psychologists, they're not professionals. They are parents or friends or teachers who have a lot of interaction with teenagers. What are some of the key things in the book that you think might really grab their attention?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I tried to be very mindful of when I was writing the book was to not have it at that level, like of academia, and that you have to be a professional and go to university to be able to help someone. Because just like you talk about in your podcast every time, that we all are only trying to help. So I wrote the book for the aunt or the grandma or the neighbor that notices a teen next door, crying in their backyard. I wrote it for everybody and anybody who is willing to just stand there and say, "Hey, I see you." So I tried to look at all of the difficult conversations, like when you see a teen crying or you see a bunch of teens standing there in the playground, like yelling and screaming, like how, what would you need as an adult to just be able to go up there and say, "Hey, I see you guys. How's it going?" Instead of having like scary teens and groups of people that are wrecking the playground.
You young people, get out of here. Right.
Yeah.
That's always the the image or the stereotype of the older person who's angry at the younger people. And you're painting a picture of a world where older people may actually embrace younger people and enjoy being around them a little bit. And why is that so revolutionary?
Yeah, I don't know. And I'm probably thinking how I probably was one of those adults before, maybe. That's probably why I never wanted to work with teens to begin with. But as I enjoy these years of my teens and they're growing and how they're thinking and they're, creative and their critical thinking processes, it's actually fascinating how much I learn from them. And I want to spread that kind of with my book as well, as like how we think about teens and how we see and view teens is also what they will become. So the book is very like a how-to guide. There's lots of exercises, practical reflection exercises as well, to think about, my own thoughts of teens. How was it when I was a teen? And what am I good at in my listening, etc. So it's both like theoretical, but it's also very practical, that you can, read it, come to an exercise. Oh, I'm going to go try that with the teen in my circle. So
yeah, I'm going to run to the other room and see how this works. Yeah.
Or you could just pause the teen. Just wait. I'm going to go get my book. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Hit their pause button, go get the book, see what the book says about how to handle this moment. I feel like we really need to go back to that cool thing you said, though, about how you see a teenager is what they will become. Because, you're describing your openness and willingness to learn from your own kids who are now teenagers, and what a difference that makes. And I suspect that's one of the ways that people sometimes go wrong. The podcast, we come together, we talk about the ways that people are trying to be helpful, but it sometimes doesn't go so well. And I'm going to guess that one of the ways that trying to help teenagers goes wrong is when we see them as just problems, and we see them as people who need us to swoop in and save them and fix them and tell them what to do. That if you can see a young person who's growing up and evolving as still having something to offer back to us, that, you said I learn a lot from my teens. The willingness to see them as having strengths at all may be one of those game-changing moments.
Yeah, definitely. And I tried to, when I was writing, I tried really hard to keep in my mind non-judgment and acceptance, because I think that's really important when you deal with all people or counsel people or just with people, but especially with teens. I was thinking about small children, like we're used to kind of seeing a 2-year-old throw themselves down in the grocery store, kicking and screaming and stuff. And that's like, well, they're 2, right? But we're not as accepting of a 12-year-old who's upset because someone steals their iPad. And they're screaming and upset. Like, I mean, we also have very, very high expectations for teens. And we forget that their brain isn't evolved. It's not finished developing until like 24 years of age. So we see them as problems and somebody who needs to be fixed, and then we don't really help them because we expect them to do it or just to know. So I think that's something that why it really felt important to both have the course and the book, that it could reach out to more people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was so smart of you to design it to be for everyday people. You know, and I'm saying this now to the folks who are listening, because you know this already, but you know, the way that we know each other is, you know, we do these workshops for professionals very often who are looking to improve their communication or their ways of helping people. And, you know, one of the things I think is fun, maybe even just toward the end of a workshop, is to say, you know, you could lose all the jargon I just taught you and take the same ideas and apply them to all the people in your life. And that might be kind of fun. But, you know, it's nice to have some resources that are free of all that technical and professional jargon. And they're just like, no, for real, this is how you talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like what your podcast does every day. And, you know, it doesn't take a university education to listen to someone or to help them. And I really took that with me when I wrote my own book, because I don't need to know everything to just listen to a teen. I think that's really, really important.
Some of the things that everyday people struggle with when they're trying to help someone, like in those moments, people often think, well, I wish I had a psychology degree, or I wish I was a therapist, or I wish I was a social worker, because then I would know what to do. But professionally, I train people with psychology degrees and therapists and social workers, and they run into all the same roadblocks that the rest of us without any degree run into as well. And I wonder if that's helpful for the parents out there to hear that, you know, unless you specialize in parenting or working with teens or something really specialty like that, for the most part, people, like, no matter what your degree is, are going to struggle with some of these things. It's hard stuff. You know, working with other humans is complicated and difficult. And you could have gone for many years of education in psychology and still sometimes want to bang your head against the wall, working with the people who you love and live with in your life all the time. And so I wish more people knew that a lot of the things that we struggle with in our relationships and our families really can't be taught at a university. It's some of this you have to just have a willingness to learn along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking about that too, because sometimes you think, well, can I really use motivational interviewing with the people I care and I love in my family and stuff? And I think that's something to, like, I wrote the book thinking that there's 3 steps to it, right? Like, first, I want to kind of find out, explore what this teen thinks about whatever we want to talk about, say drugs or smoking or something. But then there's the second step of like offering information or offering my perspective. And I think as a parent or someone with a teen that's very close to them, that step is really important on how you formulate it. So, and then of course, the last step is exploring again, how does the teen feel about what I've offered for information? Because I think also when you're a parent, it's not just, you can't just follow the teen and let them do whatever. You have to also be able to set boundaries, because everyone, they need routines and boundaries as well. So I tried to balance that too. That communication is about, learning about the teen's perspective and accepting that and respecting it and honoring their autonomy in that, but also helping them understand that I also have needs and I need to tell this to you. And how are we going to work it out together? So,
when people listen to this, they won't be able to see what your hands just did, but you're kind of moving them back and forth, like across the screen. And I just think it's so indicative of like helping teenagers realize this is a back and forth relationship that we're practicing really. And those are the years where you start to really learn about forming relationships with people. And, as you kind of move your hands back and forth in this sort of reciprocal motion, it reminds me that like role modeling that for teenagers, that like, I'm going to explore what your needs are. And I'd like to offer, what my boundaries and my expectations and what my insights are. And then we'll go back to exploring how you feel about that. But it feels very like back and forth, back and forth. You go and then I go, and then you go and then I go. And I wonder if even showing your hands moving like that in front of a teenager helps them see what we're doing here is we're sort of taking turns.
Yeah. Well, definitely. I didn't realize I was doing that with my hands, but yeah, for sure. Definitely. And I think, like it's all about relationships, right? Like how I can still feel really angry and disappointed at my teen or someone I'm working with at the same time as they need me and I need them. Like we're a team together. And it brings me actually to think about the self-determination theory and the 3 psychological needs that we have to be autonomous individuals, to feel competent, and like what's it called, social relatedness. And teens are just like us. They have those needs as well. It's just we as adults need to help them like define them for themselves. What does it mean for me to be autonomous and or decide things for myself? What does it mean that a teen needs me and I need them? I think it's really, really important. And to feel like they can. I mean, unfortunately, I think a lot of times, and I'll take responsibility for this as well as an adult, I might try and solve a problem or go in too fast and say, no, don't worry about that. Your teacher didn't mean to say that or whatever. And what I'm telling the teen is, you know what? Stop feeling what you're feeling. And that can be detrimental for our communication and our relationship and even their growth and development.
I'm not around a lot of teenagers, but even when I'm around little kids, I think a lot about role modeling. I don't know what you would call it, like distress tolerance, right? Like just tolerating uncomfortable stuff and saying, oh, so your teacher said something and it really upset you. Okay.
Yeah.
So that happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what I'm trying to show is we don't need to, fix that, solve that, run away from that, freak out about it, bottle it up. We can just kind of be like, ooh, yeah, that was terrible. What you heard today at school. And I think the more that we can show young people, or all people, or that we can show all people how to just sort of be with it for a little bit, even if it's a minute or so, that's better than saying, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And try to change what's already there. I mean, that doesn't help anyone to, change is important. And if you're having some issues and you need to change, yes, but it's all about acceptance too. Like right now I've got these feelings. I need to kind of like be with them and then figure out what I want to do with them. Do I want to continue being with them, or do I want to try and, do something so that I stop feeling this way? So I think, it's funny because, I had a little experience with my daughter the other day where she came in and was a whole bunch of things came out. It was from one end of the spectrum to the other. And I was all like overwhelmed. And I said, wow, those are some pretty big thoughts. And that was enough, sure, I might have kind of sat there thinking, I don't know which thread to grab here, but that was some big thoughts. So just like affirming and validating and stuff. That's important.
Or I'm probably just using a synonym for some of those things that you've already listed, but I think for our very general audience, sometimes affirming and validating feels like, oh, that feels like something you learn in your psychology program. How about just noticing? Like you just noticed, I'm noticing those are big thoughts. That's what I'm observing.
Yeah. And I mean, thanking them for sharing these thoughts with you. That's another thing also I talk about in the book is it's not only about us preparing for conversations with teens, it's also about us taking care of ourselves and being available and mindful when we're actually invited into a conversation with a teen. And I think that's really important as well. It's not just now I'm an adult and I'm going to read this book and I'm going to talk to this teen about this. It's also about I am going to be standing here like a lighthouse on so I can guide the teen when they're ready to have me.
Yeah. Well, and that goes back to how this is a relationship that, part of the success of any conversation you might have with a teenager is that you yourself as the adult need to be in a good place to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And it's not all about, you're just this adult who's just ready to go and perfect all the time. And I'm here to serve others. Part of your end of the deal is taking a look at yourself and saying, am I ready to do this? Am I taking good care of myself enough to be able to serve this person well? That's really helpful for me to hear. Thanks for adding that.
Yeah. And also too, like as a parent, we talked about before, when you have those other strong feelings like love for this teen in your life, your son or your daughter, I mean, it's also okay to realize that maybe you can't help them in the way that they want to be helped. You know what I mean? And that's also why I wrote this book, was because maybe I will do my best to be there for my teens if something happens. And if, I don't know, they're feeling suicidal or whatever may come about it. I'm hoping that some other adult has read my book and can be there for them as I can be there for their teen. So like, I don't know, I sort of feel like I'm going back to like the time where it took, what's that saying? It takes a village to raise a teen or something.
Yeah. It takes,
do you know what I mean?
I do. And I think now we just say it takes a village and folks know the rest of it. Yeah. It takes a village. And I have to say, I think that is my favorite thing about your story, your book, your course. When you first mentioned it to me a long time ago, you reached out because you were asking me to check some English for you. And I was like, it's perfect. Your English is perfect. But I was looking at some of the material and I thought, no one's doing this, Jen. No one that I know is focusing on the neighbor, the aunt, the mom's friend, the adults in a teenager's life who can be influential, and you're set out now to sort of equip them with the skills necessary to be that lighthouse for teenagers. And there may be 1,000, there are probably 1 million parenting books. And there are probably 1 million books to help teachers who work with teens or therapists who work with teens. But I don't know of anyone who says, no, I'm going to help the village work with teens. And so I think that makes your work so important and your voice so unique on this subject.
Yeah, thank you. That's it was really exciting when I talked with the lady actually who edited the English book, and she doesn't have children either. And she has a couple like teens around her. And she says, it helped me think differently about how I communicate with teens. And I was like, that's right. Yeah. You're the one that I was aiming for. So yeah, definitely.
It feels good. It feels good. Knowing that we may only have, a few minutes left, I want to make sure you got the chance to convey what might be at like the top of your mind or kind of bursting from your heart. Like, is there something else from the book that you feel like, oh gosh, if people only read this part, like that would be the most important part, or I'll even throw out a slightly different prompt and you can kind of take this wherever you'd like to go. But, it might also be maybe you're thinking about like the number one way people sort of go wrong working with teens or communicating with teens. Anything there that you'd like to add as sort of our grand finale?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking there's a wonderful word for this in Swedish, and I haven't been able to translate it. But what I'm thinking of is, when you really, really, really want to help, like if you really have to go to the bathroom and you're like, like that, and then you go and it's like, great. That's what I'm feeling about with helping.
Yeah. There's a sense of urgency.
Yeah. Like you really, really, really need to help. And so then you do it and it's like a relief afterwards. And exactly. And I would invite people to not so urgently help, if you understand what I mean. Like we don't need to go in and solve problems super quickly. We can actually wait and think and listen and teach teens to think and formulate things themselves.
I think you're saying the key message is slow down.
Yeah. Slow down and watch for your writing reflex,
I do
have to solve.
Yeah. And the writing reflex, I mean, anybody would know the word reflex, like that instinct to want to make things right, to want to fix things. Gosh, I hope she's listening, but I was doing a training a couple weeks ago, and I was teaching the folks in the training about the writing reflex, this instinct, urgency to want to fix and solve problems, and how that really gets in the way for us. And I'm going to say her name because she deserves credit, and I do hope she's listening, and she'll email me and say, "Oh my gosh, I heard my name on the podcast." But her name's Kim Howell, was in my training, and Kim said, for me, the writing reflex is like when I need to sit down, but on the inside. And I was like, that is perfect. Like there's something inside of you that is like frantic and activated, and it's like telling yourself to just sit down. But like not physically, it's like emotionally sit down.
Yeah.
And she deserves all the credit for sit down on the inside. I'm going to have it printed on t-shirts, on tote bags, hats, bumper stickers. Sit down on the inside. It just means to like slow down and relax and go easy with people, because when you're frantically or urgently trying to help, it ends up causing a bigger problem.
Definitely.
Well, I can't thank you enough for doing this. And I want to make sure that the people listening have lots of ways to reach out to you, because I'm going to guess that there are people listening who are like, oh, I've got a teenager in my life. And they're thinking, maybe I need to read this book. Maybe I need to take this course. So we want to make sure we have lots of ways for people to reach you. So first, I'm going to ask you, are you willing to maybe share your email address in case people have questions or comments?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can email me at jennifer@novovia.se. And I'll it's what I also have a website, and you'll probably put it on your site as well as a link. Contact me through my website or email me anytime.
Great. So what I'll do to make sure this is simple for everyone, on the Only Trying to Help site, where we list all the podcast episodes, there's a little tab that says, oh gosh, what does it say? Something like more.
Very creative, Kate.
Yeah, like more resources or more information. I don't remember what it says. Folks will find it. Here, I love how I said, let's keep it simple, but I don't even know what the tab is. But I do think it says more information. And if you click on that, that's where I usually add everybody's contact information and websites and things like that. So I'll make sure that your email address goes there, your website goes there. And can you just say the name of your book for folks who might want to find it on Amazon?
Yeah, sure. The name of the book is Lighthouse Conversations, Being a Beacon for Teens. And it's out on Amazon. And the course is actually called Lighthouse Conversations with Teens. So they piggyback on each other.
Folks are probably putting together now how we kept adding that lighthouse imagery.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. So yes, Lighthouse Conversations, Being a Beacon for Teens is the book. And the course is Lighthouse Conversations with Teens. So folks, I encourage everyone to check it out. I know some people are more book people and some people are more, let me take an online course kind of person, and others are more podcast people. So we've got a little something for everybody. Find what will work for you, because this information can be helpful even if you do not have teenagers yourself. You know, remember Jen's message here is that it takes a village. And so it might be someone who lives down the street from you who you'll be able to help, or your friend's teenager who you'll be able to help. And so I'm just so grateful that this resource is available. And Jen, thank you again for doing this. I may tap you to do this again with me sometime. So I hope you had a good time.
I did have a good time. It was fun.
Very good. Well, thank you so much.
Take me in your arms. I don't want to miss a day without you. Let's stay young forever. There is nothing we can't do. And nothing can break us apart when we're together. Facing the sky, we know that we can fly on the wings of love. And we can climb on every mountain top. I never knew infinity would mean till I met you. Since that day I live in a dream.